It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, the Algerian Interior Minister Brahim Merad has expressed Algeria's solidarity and availability to support the Libyan brothers following the storm that hit the country, killing thousands of people. The Palestinian Premier Mohammed Shtayyeh has called on the United Kingdom to recognize the state of Palestine and support its full membership in the United Nations. China's president has said his country in Venezuela agreed to enter into a strategic partnership, a sign the two nations are improving ties after years of cooling. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Osmani. Algeria delivered yesterday humanitarian aid to Libya following the storm that hit the country, killing thousands of people and injuring others. The Algerian delegation was received by the president of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus Al-Menfi. Upon arrival, the Algerian Interior Minister Brahim Merad reiterated the condolences of the Algerian president to Libya and expressed Algeria's solidarity and availability to side with the Libyan brothers.
It is not possible for us not to be the first to stand by the Libyans in this difficult ordeal. We hope that the Libyan people overcome the current circumstances as soon as possible. The President of the Republic also sent solidarity teams to help the Libyan brothers. We are ready to grant them more aid whenever necessary and whenever they ask.
Let's note that 8 aircraft of the Army's air forces carried foodstuffs, medicines, clothes and tents to Libya. Algeria expressed its full readiness to be alongside the Libyan brothers and to grant them the required aid and assistance. Earlier, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has had a telephone conversation with the President of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mr. Mohammed Yunus Al-Menfi, expressing Algeria's full availability to support by all means the Libyan state in the face of the devastating floods that hit the country. Instructed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Attaf expressed to Mr. Al-Menfi Algeria's sincere condolences, people and government, following the devastating floods which hit the brotherly country, causing a large number of victims. He also assured him that Algeria shares with Libya its pain and sorrow following this tragedy. The minister also expressed Algeria's full availability to support the Libyans by all means to mitigate the consequences of this tragedy, stressing that the Algerian president is closely following the developments of this natural disaster. For his part, Mohammed Yunus Al-Menfi expressed his deep thanks and gratitude to Algeria for her solidarity, stressing that Algeria has always helped the Libyan people in all circumstances, which strengthened bonds of brotherliness and cooperation linking the two countries. In Libya, more than 30,000 people has been displaced due to the deadly flooding that hit eastern Libya. The International Organization for Migration said at least 30,000 of the displaced were from the city of Derna, with thousands more from other areas, including Benghazi. The details with Asya Bika.
More than 5,000 people are believed dead, with exact figures difficult to confirm in the country. Some officials say that the number could double. The organization explained that Derna was now only accessible by 2 out of 7 entrances to the south, adding that electricity and network limit communications. The spokesperson for the Libyan Rescue and Emergency Service, Osama Ali, under the government of national unity, affirmed that the floods left more than 2,300 dead and around 7,000 injured in Derna, while more than 5,000 people are missing. The UNICEF chief for Libya, Michel Sarvadey, says the floods have wiped out years of developments in Derna. Due to years of internal conflict, the coastal city had been shifting from a phase of emergency towards one of development and recovery. But the devastating floods caused by Storm Danielle erased the progress made on the ground. Additionally, the UNICEF chief for Libya said the UN stockpile to respond to the crisis is also limited due to its use in tackling the migration crisis. He said the UN agency is now focused on providing medicines, setting up psychological support and family registrations to map unaccompanied children. Meanwhile, the International Rescue Committee IRC has appealed to the international community to send humanitarian assistance to the people in Libya affected by the floods, warning that the situation is dire. The IRC is gravely concerned about the protection needs of those caught up in the tragedy, especially thousands of women and children who have to leave their homes in search of safety. The aid group said urgent emergency shelter is needed for those unable to return to their homes and psychological support for those who have seen their lives literally washed away. The IRC also warned of the dangers of waterborne diseases after sanitation and hygiene infrastructure was severely damaged.
The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense has chaired a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to the 2023 Draft Finance Bill, as well as presentations on the start of the school and university year and a review of the availability of customer goods on the national market, as well as important decisions relating to the concerns of citizens. According to the Council's press release, the President instructed the Council of Ministers to correct the Finance Bill for 2023 in line with the decisions taken to further improve the citizens' purchasing power and strengthen the internal front. He has ordered the Finance Minister to increase the mobilization of financial resources and material means to accelerate the digitization of the ministry's structures and institutions. The President hailed the important role played by higher education executives who have turned their sector into a powerhouse of scientific research and an example in terms of digitization. He has ordered the creation of a cybersecurity school in coordination with the Ministry of National Defense in order to pool efforts and improve efficiency in this sensitive area to safeguard national security. The head of state has issued instructions to the ministers of higher education and startups to draw up a list of the best companies with a view to sending them to China, South Korea, and the United States of America to learn about the experiences of these countries in various fields. 14 hours, 38 minutes, Algiers time. We're coming live to you from the capital, Algiers. Algeria is chairing the meeting of the Working Group of the African Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions being held here in Algiers. Asya Bikar has the details.
In a speech at the opening of the meeting, the President of the Court of Auditors, Abdelkader Ben Marouf, highlighted the particular importance of this meeting, which provides a favorable atmosphere for discussing issues relating to the independence of African Supreme Audit Institutions, in addition to strategic approaches to strengthen the independence of these institutions. Among the objectives of the meeting, Mr. Ben Marouf mentioned the exchange of knowledge and expertise and defining a proactive and ambitious approach to strengthening the independence of African Supreme Audit Institutions. The independence of Supreme Audit Institutions is the key to ensuring transparency and regularity of public management. He said without genuine independence, these institutions cannot carry out their mission of controlling public finances objectively and effectively. For her part, the Secretary General for Strategic Affairs and Development at AfroSci, Felicite Sopo, has assured that the four-day meeting is a part of the organization's annual plan aimed at developing an effective approach that guarantees the sovereignty of supreme audit authorities in African countries. The participants in the meeting will have to explore several avenues, in particular the autonomy of the courts of audit in a global context, as well as mechanisms for collaboration between AfroSci and the African Union. Created in 1976, AfroSci is based in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and made up of 56 member bodies. Its main aim is to strengthen good governance through assisting financial control bodies and the various national courts in their work in the field of auditing as well as in the fight against corruption.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un told Russian officials during his visit that he is confident in Russia's victory over his enemies. Kim said in a footage of the speech, surrounded by North Korean and Russian officials, that he was strongly convinced that the heroic Russian army and people will follow excellently the tradition of victory and will confidently demonstrate virtue and honor in building a strong state. The North Korean leader also claims that the Russian army and people will achieve a great victory in the sacred battle against the great evil. Delivering a toast to the Kremlin leader's health, Kim said he appreciated the role of his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in building a strong and modern Russia. Kim said that he wants to continue developing relations with Russia, which are now Pyongyang's first priority, hoping that they will always be together in the fight against imperialism. According to Russian news agency, the two leaders concluded talks that lasted for 4 to 5 hours. The North Korean leader arrived in Russia's far eastern Amur Oblast earlier in the day for expected arms sales talks. Citing Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, the TASS Russian news agency said that Russia sees prospects in cooperating with North Korea in space and that Pyongyang is interested in developing cooperation in aviation and transport. Now, Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh has called on the United Kingdom to recognize the State of Palestine, support its full membership in the United Nations, and provide aid to Palestinian institutions. Asabikar again.
The Palestinian Prime Minister made the remarks during his meeting in Ramallah with the British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. He pointed out that in light of the deteriorating situation on the ground and the demographic factor, tomorrow will be too late if action is not taken today. Shtayyeh said the United Kingdom bears a moral and historical responsibility towards the Palestinian people. It must be a positive player in realizing the rights of the Palestinian people and finding a political solution that meets their aspirations. The Prime Minister explained that in light of this deteriorating situation on the ground, the two-state solution is fading and being violated on a daily and systematic basis, and it will become difficult to implement it. He called on the United Kingdom to protect the two-state solution by engaging seriously and at the highest levels in the political process alongside the United States and the international community to create a political horizon with the aim of ending the occupation and establishing the Palestinian state. Shtayyeh added that Israel and Palestine should not be dealt with on an equal footing, adding that there is an occupying state and a people under occupation. The Palestinian Prime Minister said, "We call for reconsideration of British policies and for its discourse to be consistent with its belief in the two-state solution and international law." Shtayyeh reviewed developments in the internal situation and moving forward with the reforms at all levels which will contribute to strengthening the steadfastness of the Palestinian people and providing them with the best services. For his part, the UK Foreign Secretary reassured the Palestinian Prime Minister that the UK's position on the occupied Palestinian territories has not changed. He reiterated the UK's commitment to a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders with Jerusalem as a shared capital. He also acknowledged the Prime Minister's concerns about the trajectory of instability in the West Bank, particularly in the context of increased Israeli incursions and the rise of settler violence.
China's President Xi Jinping said his country and Venezuela agreed to enter into a strategic partnership, a sign the two nations are improving ties after years of cooling. Xi earlier met President Nicolas Maduro in Beijing on Wednesday for their first sit-down since 2018. China and Venezuela also agreed to deepen cooperation in various fields. Maduro's visit comes amid worsening strains between Washington and Beijing, and as President Joe Biden also seeks to engage Venezuela, which has the world's largest crude reserves, in talks to lift sanctions in exchange for allowing fair elections next year. Maduro has said he wants China's support for his country to join the bloc of emerging market nations that also includes Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa. He also wants China to step up investment in Latin America and the Caribbean. Now, I invite you to listen to an interview conducted by Assia Bikar with Algerian novelist and poet Wahid Ziadi about his novel The Victims of the Imaginary.
Dear listeners, and welcome to our program, Our Talk. Joining us on the phone is poet and novelist Wahid Ziadi to talk about his novel, The Victims of the Imaginary. Wahid, welcome back on our waves.
Hello. Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. So, could you please tell us about this novel?
My novel, The Victims of the Imaginary, is a fictional story. It was edited on 2012 in France, then re-edited in Algiers in 2013. So it is about life, about our relationship with nature, life, God, metaphysical world. So it's mainly philosophical. It is a story of a mixed marriage between an Arab, Mahmoud, the main character. By the way, it's a character-based novel, and a woman who's a Jew, Mary. These characters are archetypes, so they symbolize different cultures and religions, different beliefs. So it's about a certain encounter and a confrontation at the same time. It's a parallel of what is happening and what happened since a long time on Earth. I mean, the conflict between Arabs and Israelis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the main themes of the novel, The Victims of the Imaginary, is the clash of civilizations. Why does this theme prevail in the novel?
Right, that's the main theme. So I try to talk about it not in an academic way, but just as a story, as a news item story first. The first reading would let you know about a certain, as I said, news item. It's about an assassination, a double murder, okay? The wife that has been killed by her husband, and here is a killing of ideologies and certain cultures. It's not properly about human beings. See, it's about killing of ideas.
It's symbolic.
Yeah, it's symbolic. It's highly symbolic. So I said that there are several levels of reading. You can make simple reading about facts, or to give them another dimension, a philosophical dimension, a sociological dimension, political, cultural. Then the wife has been murdered by his own son, and here we have to trace back history of human beings, mostly the monotheistic religions. It's about Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Mm-hmm. Even names of characters are references to Islam, like Mahmoud and Mary and Isa or Joshua is cited in the novel, and Fatima as well. It's the symbol of the Shi'is, that branch of Islam too. They are all living and interacting in this story as the interaction between these cultures.
In your novel, you make reference to different philosophical concepts of great philosophers, such as Socrates' quotation, "Speak so that I may see you," for example, among others, like Plato's Utopia. Is it because the novel itself fall into the philosophical atmosphere, or is it an author's preference?
So, it's like a philosophical plot first. Those references are recalling back those schools of thoughts that have lived through these centuries and are thousands of years. It is, first I wanted to say that the novel is a question of a human being, and I wanted the reader to feel himself in the novel, because he's gonna feel himself first concerned, right? So, yeah, that was a way to make him identify himself with characters, each character, of course, and the philosophical tendency was a way to try to explain what is happening in our life as human beings, and why is about a certain absurdity of these kind of conflicts. And I've been inspired by thinkers universally known as Samuel Said, who's one who belongs to the tendency of neocolonialism, and who said that the clash of civilizations is just a myth. So for him, there is no real conflict between humans, even though he was defending the Palestinian cause, contrary to Hamilton, who was defending this thesis, that that it is inevitable. This kind of conflict is really inevitable, and we have each century to wage wars and to be in confrontation between communities. It is like something necessary. These kind of opposition between the two schools or the two mainstreams and thoughts I try to reflect them in this story.
And what does the novel say about this clash of civilizations?
Yeah, the novel is an open reflection about that. Okay, I didn't pretend to bring any answer. I just tried to ask, to interrogate myself in a philosophical way. There are those huge questions any human being has to ask himself about the substance of existence, of time, of life, of God. And should we really make a huge affair of that till the point of waging wars and creating conflicts, political conflicts, religious conflicts? I think that it's kind of judgment of absurdity, a certain view that is not really of a human being.
So you try to make a reflection on the clash of civilizations in the novel.
Right, that's a reflection. That's mostly an interrogation.
Yeah. So the main character in the novel is nicknamed Humain or Human.
Yeah, Mahmoud. Then, yeah, right. And human, that means just, I said that I was expecting that any reader would identify himself to the main character. Yeah.
So, since you wanted the reader to identify with the character Human, what does the novel, your story, and you as a person and an author try to tell about the human being to your readers?
Yeah, I think that we have to value moral principles and what makes us true human beings. I mean, we have to emphasize that feeling of love and to be helpful, to try to put ourselves in those who are living bad conditions. So we have to share highly human principles. I think that we have been created to live in peace and to share our cultures, to be in a certain intercultural relationship based on friendship, not on hatred and any kind of ideologies that lead to dramatic confrontations like the crime that has been committed by Mahmoud against his wife just because they see that she has another vision of life and like I see, so his own son revenged and he killed him just to take revenge. Because he judged that crime was unfair, and he was living a huge conflict. Their son, he was really living an inside psychological conflict. You see, yeah.
So, are you trying to tell that the human side of the human being is not as it should be in modern society?
Right. Yeah. I mean the community, the universal community itself, not only in the Algerian society. Because the novel is on a universal plan. It is regarding the humanity and the world's community. Yeah, that's from that point of view. I consider human beings from that point of view.
Of course. So we spoke a lot about religious concepts in the novel and in our interview as well. Religious concepts are strongly present in the novel. How far does religion affect the life of the character human in your novel?
Right. Victims, that refers to the title of the novel. We are all victims of imaginary. There's a little difference between imagination, the act of imagining, and imaginary. It's about all elements that are included in imagination, like the space, the culture, the society, the family, okay? Religions are a part of that imaginary. And unfortunately, because of a certain negative view, or I mean a false conception of religion, that leads to what I called as a neologism, la foi pathie in French. That means the pathology of faith. Okay. Unfortunately, I can see there are certain persons, certain tendencies are really sick and are ill because of a certain conception of religion. Not the healthy one, of course. That's why they commit crimes, they kill women and even children, just for them they are pleasing a certain God. The God that is created in their own mental representation.
So you just gave us the secret of the title.
So the secret, first, any human being in a certain way, to a certain extent, victim of his own imagination, right? Yeah. When we are excessively pretentious or ambitious, or, when we are egocentric, we focus on our ego excessively, we're victim to a certain extent. Then this flow, this default, would be generalized on the scale of a community, and we can find a whole community that is affected by this state of mind and this way of considering life, the universe, God, and all the abstract concepts,
Yeah, you mean that the problem is not with the concept itself, but with the human being's belief?
Right. It's how we conceive it, or the mental representation, that God isn't the same in our inner being, Each one, even if we belong to the same community as Muslims, each one of us might have his own representation of divinity,